Hey first grade, Miss Dorsey. Normally I'm here reading a book to you, but this week we're going to do something a little bit differently. You guys are going to be the writers this week. So you're going to write a nonfiction text about an animal of your choice. But before I just let you go ahead and do that, I'm going to give you a quick mini lesson on how to be a good nonfiction writer. So throughout this video, you're going to see some things that good nonfiction writers do, and you're also going to learn about the specifics on your assignment. All right, last week we read a nonfiction text about sea turtles and one about whales. Remember that nonfiction texts are real books that tell true information, teach, and explain. We talked about a few nonfiction text features last week: the index, caption, illustrations, and photographs. And this week we're adding one more new nonfiction text feature, and those are labels. In your nonfiction writing, you're going to be focusing on these two text features that you're going to add in your own writing. The first thing you're going to do is draw an illustration of your animal that you've chosen, and then you're going to add labels to that illustration. Labels provide information by pointing out an object within a picture or photograph. And you're going to do that by drawing lines and using arrows to point to that object and writing a word to describe it. Like in the picture, you see a label pointing to the frog, an adult frog. Your assignment is to create a nonfiction writing piece. I'm choosing to write about sea turtles, so you're going to pick a different animal. After you pick your animal, you're going to research using Google, or you can log on to Epic to find a nonfiction book to learn more facts about your animal, and you're going to follow the rubric on the right-hand side. The rubric is a way for you to measure your writing and make sure it's meeting the standards of what a good writer does. You're going to have 3 different things to be looking for your writing structure, your illustration, and your use of conventions. The animal that I've selected is a sea turtle. I'm using the book from last week, One Tiny Turtle, written by Nicola Davis, to get facts and information for my nonfiction writing. I'm only able to use this book because I know it's a nonfiction book, and nonfiction books give me facts and information. If you have a book at home that has your animal in it, but it's telling a story or has make-believe items in it, please don't use that book because that's not going to give you true information. Bloop! That's the sound of a sea turtle coming up from the water to breathe. Sea turtles are reptiles and still need air. Turtles grow in a shell that is hard like a knight's armor. They also have flippers. Flippers are used like shovels to bury their eggs in the sand. This is my example of my nonfiction writing. On the next few slides, we're going to talk about some things in this writing that good writers do that I'd like to see in your writing as well. Something that good writers do when they're teaching somebody about something is they make a comparison. You might compare shark's teeth to a knife. In my writing, I compare the turtle's shell to a knight's armor. I'll read my sentence. Turtles grow in a shell that is hard like knight's armor. When you make a comparison, you give your reader something that they're familiar with to compare the new facts to. Another thing that good nonfiction writers do is they include pictures. In those pictures, they might include arrows, captions, and zoom in on specific parts. In my writing, you'll notice that I added arrows to show my labels. I labeled the shell at the top and the flipper at the bottom. My labels in my picture give my reader more information about my animal. When you're reading nonfiction text, you'll notice that authors will sometimes write in twin sentences. What that means is they give one fact in the first sentence and then give additional information about that fact in the next sentence. Kind of like twins, they're similar. For example, dogs like biscuits. Biscuits are like cookies. In my writing, I used a twin sentence. I'll read it. They also have flippers. Flippers are used like shovels to bury their eggs in the sand. The first fact I told you about were their flippers, and then I gave you additional information about what their flippers do in the next sentence. When you are working on your writing, I want you to remember to make comparisons, include pictures, and to write in twin sentences. These are all things that good nonfiction writers do. All right, so you've picked your animal, researched it, started writing, and in your writing, you made comparisons, included pictures, and wrote in twin sentences. So now it's time to compare your writing to the rubric to make sure that you've met every expectation and that you've done your very best. The first thing I want to check on my rubric is that I named my topic at the beginning and I got my reader's attention. I can check yes in this because I saw that I added bloop. That's the sound of a sea turtle coming up from the water to breathe. Adding the onomatopoeia, the sound word, bloop at the beginning got my reader's attention, and I did mention sea turtle, which is my topic. The next thing I'm going to look at is to see if I taught my readers about one animal and gave at least 3 facts. I can mark yes for this because my writing is all about one animal, the sea turtle, and I can see 3 facts that I wrote. Fact 1, sea turtles are reptile. Fact 2, turtles grow in a shell. And fact 3, they also have flippers. You can write more than 3 facts if you would like, but you have to have at least 3. Now I'm moving down to the illustration section. The first thing I'm looking for is if I drew a picture of my animal. I did draw a picture of my animal. Make sure you tried your very best. You can also look for drawing tutorials if you're not sure how to do it. Now that I have my picture drawn, I also want to make sure I added at least one label to my picture. I can also mark this off as yes because I labeled the shell at the top and the flipper at the bottom. I made sure that my label has the word spelled correctly and a line and an arrow pointing to that part of my animal. The last section I'm going to look at is my conventions. So I want to make sure that I used capital letters at the beginning of my sentence. So I'm going to go through each line of my paper and make sure that every beginning of my sentence is a capital letter. I put mine in red so that you can see that all of mine are capital. They are, so I can give myself a yes on that too. The last part on my rubric, I want to check to make sure that I used punctuation at the end of my sentence. I also put my punctuation in red as I read through each line of my paper to make sure that every end mark is there when I take a pause in my reading. I've gone over my whole rubric and compared my writing to every part of the rubric. I went over structure, illustration, and conventions. I was able to mark off yes for every part because I did all of those things in my own writing. Now it's your turn. So remember, you're going to pick one animal, research your animal using Google or a book on Epic, follow the rubric, and make sure you've met every expectation within the structure, illustration, and conventions. And you're going to share your writing on Flipgrid. I hope to see in your writing that you are making comparisons, using pictures, and writing in twin sentences. These are all traits of really good nonfiction writers. And also remember when you pick your animal, if you see the picture at the bottom, it can be an animal that you might see at your house, in your neighborhood, at the zoo, or in the rainforest. So you pick an animal that you want to learn about and that you can share with your classmates. Can't wait to see it.